Member Richardson in. Good evening. Nice to see you. We just had a motion on the floor to approve the minutes for both April 27th and June 22nd. We went to public comment. There was none. And so we'll go to a roll call vote for approval, or we could do no objections, whichever.
We actually need to do one for the 27th and the one for the last month because there were some people absent in April. So if you're absent for the April 27th meeting, you need to abstain from this vote. So I'll start with Member Barnett.
Approve.
Member Harrell.
Was I here on April 20th?
No, you weren't. Member Inocencio.
Okay.
Approve.
Member Lange.
Sorry to double check that I was there. Yes.
Member Ram.
Approved.
Member Richardson. Member Richardson. Okay, we'll come back to you. Member Rodriguez.
I believe I need to abstain.
Okay. Member Square still not here. Member Steffi.
Approve.
Okay. Member Wiseman.
Approve.
Member Richardson.
Approve.
Thank you. Vice Chair Weeks.
Approve.
Approve. And Chair Graves.
Approve. Vice Chair Weeks, were you gone in April or May? I believe it was April.
I have to think for a moment. Yes, it was
You
April.
were. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We still have enough to for those minutes to pass. And so next we'll go on to the June 22nd minutes.
Hey, Danielle,
Yes.
I'm just looking at the minutes. So Richardson, Rodriguez, and Weeks were all absent that day. Didn't you have Richardson as approved?
Okay. I don't remember. Member Richardson. Do you recall if you were here in April?
She tried to make a comment, I think it's.
Hold on. Actually, I take it back.
He's on mute.
Yes, you were absent, so you had to abstain. We still have enough to approve those minutes. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
moving on to June 22nd. Member Barnett.
Approve.
Member Harrell.
Approve.
Member Inocencio.
Abstain.
Abstain. Member Lange.
Approve.
Member Ram.
Was not there.
Yep.
What would you?
Member Richardson. You were here for that one. Okay. Member Rodriguez.
Approve.
Member Steffi.
Approve.
Member Wiseman. I think you were out,
I
right?
was out. Yes, I was sick. So
Okay.
abstain.
Perfect. Vice Chair Weeks.
This second approved.
Thank you. And Chair Graves.
Approve.
Great. We have enough to pass those minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item number 4, CAB announcements. This is where CAB members may share community news of interest to the CAB as a whole. May also announce upcoming community events that may be of interest to the CAB or the public. And this is also a time where members may announce that they're departing from the meeting early or any other announcement that may affect the meeting. So keep that in mind. I am going to go around the screen on this one because we have a robust group. Member Wiseman, you are at my top left, although that might not be the same for everyone. So do you have anything to announce?
Just that I do need to leave shortly after 8.
Thank you.
We'll be done by then.
Okay.
We'll be done. We'll be done by then.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking too. So, but I appreciate you saying that, and bringing it to our attention. And Member Harrell, you're next.
Yes. Oakmont, our retirement community over here is doing what's called Oakmont 2030. It's a kind of a looking forward and trying to do a general plan for Oakmont in sync with the Santa Rosa new general plan. And we've hired a consultant who has created this really new integrated system where 8 people sit at each table, and there's a iPad, and people are throwing out ideas about what they like about Oakmont, what they observe that they might want to change, and then it gets thrown up on the big screen, and the themes are pretty much the same. What are their concerns? And evacuation safety and life safety is pretty much the highest concern. But it's pretty exciting for us to be, we're meeting with city planners to kind of let them know what is at the top of the list for Oakmonters as they're making their plan, and we're enjoying working with the planning department. So that's our big deal. We did have a fire at Melita Road just a couple of days ago. Fortunately, the fire department got it out like in just a few minutes, but it was scary. It was really just right up from us. That's all my news.
Thank you, Member Harrell. It's great to hear that that's happening in Oakmont. It's nice to have you out there representing and bringing information back. Thank you. Member Lange.
Great. Just as I was trying to pull up what little bit of notes I have, most things are just general upcoming community things that are taking place. On August the 27th, Petaluma Blacks for Community Development will be having their annual barbecue event. And so everyone is welcome. It's a really great opportunity to connect in community before we get back into the kick of the fall. I personally had the opportunity to attend the NAACP's National Convention in Atlantic City last week. And so full of robust information. And one of the keynote speakers was Vice President Kamala Harris. And of course, called to attention the much needed work that continues, that we all have ahead of us to continue to fight for advocacy and social justice in our communities. And one of the main messages that I thought would be pertinent to the work that we do is around ensuring communities are connected and people are well informed on what's taking place. So wanted to leave that little bit with you all.
Thank you. It's great. That's really fun info to hear about as well. Thanks for all of your work. Member Barnett.
How fast can you hit the unmute button? All right, big surprise, you guys are going to hear about bike events with me. But every Tuesday, there's a community bike ride, meets at Humboldt Park, 5:45, pedals up 6:15. Taco Tuesday, if you don't know about it, we ride down to the downtown via the neighborhood, end up in the food truck in Matote Village, and then we come back. So we, I believe, cross through 3 city council districts in the process. On the last ride that I was on, council member Fleming came on the ride with her daughter. So letting y'all know it's a lot of fun, and there's people coming from all over the city, and we will hook you up. If you don't have a bike, we will help you. I want to put a little shout out that Live at Juilliard is back on Sundays. I just found this out because our neighbors were like, are you going to go see the live music? So years ago, we used to table it there with the cab table, and we used to promote the community improvement grants. Something to think about potentially. And there's a new neighborhood advocacy group that's kind of coming up from the grassroots, referred to as Bikeable Santa Rosa. It is a group of residents that on their very own got together, and they are doing they meet on the second Sunday of the month, and they go out and they do a community ride. And then they come together and organize, and their whole thing is about pretty much making just Santa Rosa more bikeable, and also just being a part of the process. And they are interfacing with the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. They are checking out the general plan, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. If you are at all interested, they have created a website called We Go by Bike, and it's a grassroots from the ground up. So those are the things I have to share with y'all.
Thank you, Member Barnett. Thanks for all the bike info. Member Rodriguez.
Hi there. Our Rincon Valley Little League team are just making it all the way to state champions. So I really appreciate the Press Democrats coverage. It means a lot to the families out here after missing Little League for a couple of years. So it's nice to be together and have that Little League community, because we do chat about a lot in the stands. So believe it or not, it's been really nice. So super proud of them. Also, I know the water department coming up, and water being my little cause. Saturday, August 20th, we're doing some water pop-ups, so all around the community and across the city. So really hope everyone is drought awareness as we still get into the fall and end of the season, and stop by the drought pop-ups on Saturday, August 20th. And then that I'll probably sneak out at 8 o'clock to do a pickup as well. So thank you.
Thank you. It's very exciting to watch along with you, just your updates about the Little League, and thanks for doing that. Member Steffi?
Yes, hi everyone. I have a couple things. I've been trying to really get out into the community the last couple of weeks. So did Wednesday night market a few nights and was really happy how crowded it was. Live at Juilliard started 2 weeks ago. So thanks for mentioning that, Member Barnett. That place should be packed. It's amazing. It's a great way to, I've met a lot of new people. The music's great. It's free. And the water department's out there talking about the drought. We don't have a table, I know, and I think that was intentional this year that we're not sponsoring it. The city might not be sponsoring it to the same level they were, but maybe just the community outreach isn't. But anyway, the water department's there, handing out water and kits and all that stuff. That was great. The other thing is we have an awesome baseball team in town called the Santa Rosa Scuba Divers. I've gone to a few games. It's super fun. There was hardly anyone there. So I feel like they need to do some more outreach, and I'm in touch with them for next year to see about maybe involving Little League kids, or maybe kids from the Boys and Girls Club, to just get some families out there, because it's you can get so close to the players and it's really exciting. Their last game is Friday night. I don't think they made the playoffs unless someone knows otherwise. I'm pretty sure they didn't. So those are some of the community events. The one thing I wanted to let you know also, I did kind of a quick and dirty neighborhood event on 4th of July, a block party. I put signs up, my husband and I did. We said, bring whatever you want to grill. We rolled out our barbecue. We got like 50 people. And the cool thing there is, like, 3 women in my neighborhood have recently lost their partners. And they traded phone numbers, and in case of an emergency, they're on each other's lists. And so it was kind of a grassroots, we talk a lot about getting the neighborhoods together. It's one of our items on our strategic plan, but it came together pretty quick. And I was amazed how people were so excited and so happy. They're still stopping me when I walk the neighborhood and thanking us for doing it. And they want to do one on Labor Day. So anyway, that was kind of a cool thing, and it worked out really well. And we're looking at doing other options of that. So that's the updates from me.
Thank you, Member Steffi. You beat me to it about the scuba divers. I'll give you a rundown on their standings later. All right, Member Inocencio.
Yeah, just a quick one, that the Mitote food truck park is finally open. So if you haven't been, you should absolutely stop by, spend some time in the Sebastopol Road area, because it's a great time. It's a fun time. So yeah, just show up if you haven't been there yet.
How are the
And then-
tacos? Are tacos good?
And there's so many other things too. It's nice seeing the area start to develop. So yeah, you should definitely make your way there if you haven't been.
Member Inocencio, I've also heard folks are pretty excited that there's a bar. So can't leave that one out. And there's a good number of community events that actually get held around that area, not just the Taco Tuesday bike ride. So that's pretty cool. It's exciting to see it form. And there's no generator noise and smell because it's plugged into electricity. That's so awesome. Member Richardson.
So I don't really have any community updates as of right now. haven't gotten out much in the community. We've had COVID in our household, so we're still kind of being very precautionary. So
I'm unmuting and then muting and then unmuting. Sorry about that. I hear you, Member Richardson. It is still a scary time. So I'm glad that you're taking care of yourself and your family.
thank you.
Member Rom?
Hi. Let's see. First of all, been going to Wednesday night market. I think if anybody hasn't been there, it's been a great, I think it's been better this year than it's been in a long time, maybe just because of COVID. I too have been dealing with the whole COVID jail, so haven't been out much, but back out at it this last couple of weeks, but the fatigue is brutal. I was invited to be on the Emergency Operations Plan Committee for the city of Santa Rosa, and asking any of you guys if you have any comments, or I'd like to bounce that off to some of you guys so you guys can kind of see what is being discussed there, but also get your input for your areas. And our first meeting is in first week of August. And that's all I have, other than the live music at Juilliard Park we can't wait to go to.
Thank you, Member Ron. And Vice Chair Weeks.
Hey everyone. So I attended Galvin Park, the park cleanup last month. It was a couple weeks ago. It was really great. Unfortunately, there was tons and tons of confetti, which they're not supposed to have, and it was a nightmare cleaning up, and we didn't even get close, sadly, but we did our very best. And then next month, I believe it's going to be at Prince Memorial Greenway, and I forget what day it is. I think it's August 6th. So be sure to come out. It's tons of fun. Councilmember McDonald was out there serving up slushies this past time, so it's always good time. The other thing I wanted to mention is, in case you weren't aware, Measure O, which will help fund our firefighters, our police, and gang violence prevention, was actually approved to go to the ballot. And that's a really critical step forward, and I'm personally very excited to see that. So I'm sure to some extent we'll be individually working on that at some point. The other thing I wanted to raise, because I think this is personally of huge interest, is on August 4th, the Santa Rosa Design Review Board will actually be looking at a 8-story, 166 unit project that will actually be a pretty large residential project that will be essentially where Gary chooses, and then it wraps around onto Mendocino, so it'll be kind of an L shape. And the front entrance will be 2 entrances on either side, but it's a really big step forward for the downtown area, and I'm personally very excited about this, and I hope you'll share in that excitement as well. And then, yeah, to the scuba divers, lots of fun. They still owe me a hat. Bought it a while ago. We're working on that one. And then I would like to echo Matote is really just amazing. I've been there several times and spent way too much money, but the food is delicious. It's just tons of fun. And yeah, the bar, like it doesn't need any words really. So tons of fun. And I think that is all I have for now. Oh, and we now have a new police chief, in case you weren't aware. Chief Cregan was formerly, I don't know what the terminology would be, but he's now our chief. So I thought that was really exciting as well. And we're happy to, I'm sure, have him on board. And so thanks so much.
Thank you. He was sworn in on Monday. I was sad to miss that, but I was out of town. That was exciting to see some of that on social media and elsewhere. And to clarify, August 6th, that Prince Memorial Greenway is a standing every first Saturday of the month at Prince Memorial Greenway is a Clean Up the Creek Saturday. This one is special. It's worth noting. August 6th is a tribute to Stan Gow, and Stan Gow passed away earlier this year. And he was responsible for actually creating that cleanup at Prince Memorial Greenway. So that is a great one to check out. They always have pizza afterwards. And I'm sure that it'll be very busy. The actual Park a Month program will be the next Saturday, because it's always on the second Saturday of the month. And that one rotates from park to park to park. And that will be on August 14th from 9 to 12 at Youth Community Park. So the times are a little bit different. Park a Month is 9 to 12, whereas the Prince Memorial Greenway, which is every month, the first Saturday of the month, is from 10 to 12. So that's important to note. I also have been out there getting out a little bit into the community. The Wednesday night market for me is almost a place of home. I did manage the Wednesday night market and produce it for 3 years. It was slightly different recently, where my activism and social justice hat kind of melded with my community events hat, and I put on a reproductive rights rally, had almost 1,000 people at the Wednesday night market at the same time. We pulled it off. Thank you to the Wednesday night market management for moving the stage a little bit and giving us a little bit extra space to do that safely. It was a great group, and much of the community was represented, and that was a great space to be in for that evening. Also want to point out that the square is hopping. It's not just the Wednesday night market, but they have events Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, on the weekends. So do check out, visit Santa Rosa or the Santa Rosa Metro Chamber for upcoming events of movies, Summer on the Square, which also has movies on the square and music on the square and all kinds of stuff. So there's just a plethora of things happening on the square. I also once a month meet with the mayor when he's available, and all the chairs of the different boards meet with him the first Wednesday of the month, I want to say at noon, and brought up the concern that was brought up at our last meeting by members of the overgrown weeds throughout the city and in different areas. A couple important points to that. I pointed out the concern around the app and the wording of the app, and how when you input something, it'll say completed when it's not been completed in a physical space. It's just been entered into the app. So he heard that. Also, the chair of our community services board that relates to Parks and Rec heard that, and are kind of working on that and bringing that to the attention of the heads of the department and the city manager, that wording is somewhat troublesome. Also, around the actual weed abatement, it was nice to hear that the budget that just got approved by the city does have an increased budget for weed abatement specifically. So that is important to know, that although it has been falling behind and lagging behind, it's going to hopefully be increased. And they do understand that not only is an eyesore, but can be a safety concern as well. So if it's on city property, do use the app, do call it in. You can call it in as well, use the app, and know that those efforts are increasing. Santa Rosa Scuba Divers, not only is it their last home game, I have to say home game, it's not their last game. They have a couple more games after that, but their last home game is this Friday. They do have a home game this Thursday. That's when their home games have been, Thursday and Friday. There is a slight chance they could make it into the playoffs, but it is so slight and it probably won't happen. So they are really fun. It's cheap entertainment. It's $10 a ticket. And the games start at 6:30. The gates open at 6 p.m. I know that I'm going to have a big group that I'm involved with that'll be there on their last home game. So we're gonna show them some pride on that last home game. So I hope to see some folks there. And I think if I'm looking at my notes correctly, that is about it. Thanks everybody for so much great information about all the different events that are happening around town. And also, again, please note to keep yourself safe and take care of all the precautions that you can for yourself and for others. With that, can we move to public comment?
There are no hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. That'll close out item number 4 and moving on to number 5, which is staff updates. Is that Danielle or Magali or both of you?
It's a combo. I'm gonna go ahead and share the first staff update that is some good and bad news. Like my daughter says, and we always start with the bad news and then get to the good news, right? So our first update is that we are going to have some staffing changes. So unfortunately, we're not going to have Danielle joining CAB meetings anymore. She has been an incredible just asset to really helping the Office of Community Engagement. She's just, I can't say enough of the wonderful work and how helpful she's been in helping me really get into this process. And the good news is that she has been promoted to the Violence Prevention Partnership Admin Analyst position. So we are going to really be able to dive deep into the data that we're going to be collecting from our choice partner agencies and really looking at what other indicators and factors, are causes of community violence and an array of wonderful things that I'm sure you all want to have her back to report out on her work. So I did want to officially congratulate Danielle and also deliver that sad news for CAB, but you get me. And I'm gonna hand it over to Danielle.
Thanks, Magali. It has been a fun 6 years. I appreciate the CAB and being able to meet everyone who has who's currently with us and who has been with us. So, but with that, I'm gonna finish up this meeting before I say goodbye to everyone. Next staff update is National Night Out. So National Night Out is August 2nd. So next Tuesday, actually, from 4 to 7 p.m. at Mitote Food Park. And this is an opportunity. Our department will be out there tabling, and there'll be some CAB grant flyers out there. So if anyone wants to come out, I know that the vice chair has volunteered some time to come out and table with us. If anyone else is interested, please reach out to Danny. He is signing people up for that. Other upcoming opportunities, the police auditor community meetings. So the OIR group will be here next week to meet with community over a couple of days starting August 4th. August 4th, there will be a community meeting at Shepherd Elementary School. Please forgive me. I have to check. What time, Magali? Is it 5:30 or 6?
So the evening program is
It's 6 to 7:30 at Shepherd. I wrote it down beforehand. I have my flyer here in front of me too.
Thank you. 6 to 7:30. There will be translation services available at that meeting. We encourage folks to come on out and provide feedback to the auditor. On the 5th, which is a Friday, there will be 2 opportunities. There will be from 8 to 10 a.m. at Tia Maria's in Roseland, a coffee with, instead of coffee with GOP, it's coffee with the police auditor. It's drop-in. So stop on by, have some coffee and chat with the auditor there. And then in the afternoon from 3 to 5, there will be drop-in hours again at Victory Outreach Church in South Santa Rosa. They will be there. And then Saturday the 6th, I believe from 10 to 12, they will be at Finley Person Senior Wing in room 5, the big auditorium there in the senior wing, hosting another community meeting. So please come out then. And then our last update is the Hearn Community Hub. We do have some movement there. So we're very excited to announce that we will be hosting, along with the consultant, a block party on Saturday, August 20th from 10 a.m. to noon at Roseland University Prep School. So come on by. There'll be plenty of activities, provide input on that Hearn community space. And I believe that's it, unless Magali, you wanted to add anything else.
Yes, thank you. So on the Hearn Community Hub, I can't remember if we mentioned it in the last CAB meeting or not, but our Office of Community Engagement will be leading that needs assessment. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll make sure to, add my email to the chat box, but it's mdeyes@srcity.org. We will have a small group meeting, a block party, the town hall, and then a few subsequent meetings that RDC, which is a consultant company that's helping us put that information together, will be working on. So we are getting more information as soon as possible. And as soon as we get those dates locked in with the venue, we are going to start putting some flyers out. We'd love your help to get the word out on that as well. Thank you.
We got for you.
All right, so bringing it back to the board for any questions. I'll take a hands raised for this one. Member Lange.
Could you repeat the time for the Hearn Hub Block Party on the August 20th for me,
Yes.
please?
10 a.m. to noon on the 20th.
And then for the auditor meetings, is there a flyer that we'll get that we can send around?
Yes, I believe I did send it out, but I will resend it again.
Okay, thank you.
And any other hands raised? I'm not seeing any. A question for me. I didn't catch the location of the National Night Out again.
Metote Food Park.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm not committing to being there. I do have an infusion that day, but I usually get done about 6 o'clock. So I'll try if I'm not too tired from that.
I did
To last
forget to mention one thing. Sorry. One thing about Metote is that Vince's photo is hanging up high on a really awesome banner at the food park. So he is being honored there in that way. And for those of you who don't know, Vince Harper was a member of the Community Advisory Board who passed away last year.
I do wonder if they'll be willing to make a friendly amendment to his banner since it is listed under Latino community leaders. And
I know, I saw that too. That would be nice.
just putting it out in the universe.
I think every community group in Santa Rosa does want to claim Vince, though. He was everywhere. So I almost can understand that. He was a prized possession to everybody, and his memory lives on with all of our groups, right? So I don't believe I have any other questions. Can we move this to public oh, sorry, Member Steffi, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Just real quick, I wanted to personally thank Danielle for all she's done. I started with CAB during COVID, and so Danielle's been extremely valuable in onboarding and supporting and everything. So I wish you well in your new exciting endeavor. And thank you so much for all you've done for CAB and for me and for the city of Santa Rosa.
Thank you.
Great. I'm hoping that we can have just public comment and then come back for comments. Public comment?
There are no hands raised for public comment.
Okay, thank you. And if there are any further comments by the board? Seeing none, I will say thank you so much to Danielle. It has been a moment with CAB. It has many challenges, many great moments. I don't believe that CAB could have weathered the storm without you at the helm of being virtual, being not happening sometimes, happening sometimes, having a completely different group of people, and everyone has come on board during COVID except for member Barnett and myself. So we want to, I can't reiterate that enough so that everybody knows that they're not alone coming on board during COVID and during remote meetings. And that is extremely challenging, not just for us, but also for staff, because I know that all of us in our lives of work and even personal lives, our virtual meetings just go back to back to back to back to back. And 8 hours is not a limit anymore. It goes on and on and on. And so I can't even imagine with staff, the number of virtual meetings that you have, and with no time in between. And there was no respite, it felt like. So thank you. And I'm glad to hear that that position is still on board within community engagement, because you are priceless in that role and in that space. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that you're all in good hands with Magali too, as I hand you over to her.
All right. So that closes out item number 5 with the staff updates. And now we're moving on to scheduled items. And this is item number 6.1, and we're going over the 2021-2022 Community Improvement Program update. And there is a presentation that was attached to your agenda. So staff will provide the CAB with this presentation at this time.
Yes, let me just get situated here. All right. So I will just provide you with an overview of where we're at with the grant program to date, since we started issuing grants again in 2021 on the quarterly system through the present time, before we go into the next item, which is the new grant applications. Next slide, please. So just quick overview. Again, many of you have already seen this, but each year council provides funding to the CAB for the grant program. The goals are to support community building, improve neighborhoods, strengthen city relationships with the community. And at one point it was to fund NeighborFest, but it's currently not happening, obviously. Projects are available for funding of up to $2,500. And neighborhood groups or community groups can apply, as well as schools, nonprofits, and I think that was supposed to say service clubs, not service clubs. So sorry about that. Next slide, please. So starting with Q2 in 2021, we had 6 funded projects. Out of those, 3 have been completed. 1 is still in progress. 1 has been delayed due to infrastructure issues, and 1 has not been completed. Next slide, please. So among those that were completed were the Safe School Ambassadors program through Community Matters. Total participating in the program were 36, which were 30 students and 6 adults. Number of people who participated in the planning process for this project were 7 from both the school and the Community Matters. And number of people who participated as volunteers implementing the project were 6 total. 6 from the school and 4 from Community Matters. Through implementation of Safe School Ambassadors program, non-traditional student leaders at Helen Lehman Elementary School were engaged, empowered, and equipped to create fair, just, and equitable school climate in which all students feel cared for and connected. Next slide, please. Then we had the Elsie Allen High School campus mural. This was completed with the help of 24 community volunteers and 40 Elsie Allen High School students. The completed mural is 30-foot by 10-foot depiction of Elsie Allen weaving a basket under a massive oak tree as a regal wolf keeps her company. Elsie Allen was a renowned Pomo native master basket weaver and education advocate in our region. The wolf, or Lobo, represents the school mascot, And then hanging on the tree, flags represent the diversity of the student body, staff, teachers, and community at large. And so there's a wide variety. I'm not going to list all of them out, but a wide variety of flags, including the different country flags, the LGBTQIA flag, and the Pomo tribe flag. Next slide, please. So this is a really, this is real fun to see the before and after photos. So the Santa Rosa High School baseball facilities repair project. So they applied for funding to repair their baseball facilities because they were really run down and weren't getting the necessary funds from the school. So they decided to go out and raise funds and then also apply for grants in the community to do this. They, over the course of the year, they made several repairs to their facilities. So this is the backstop before, and if we can go to the next slide. It's a little difficult to see, but as you can see in the right-handed photo, they did make some repairs to the backstop, and then it's also reflected here with those cupcakes there. You can see the wood, the brand new wood that's used there on the backstop. But the biggest improvement made, next slide, please, was to their batting cages. So this actually initially was not part of one of the facility pieces that they were going to repair. However, as you all remember, there was a huge storm last year that created major problems throughout our community, and it destroyed their batting cages. And so shortly after the storm hit, they reached out and asked if instead of repairing, some of the other facilities that they had originally wanted to, if they could repair the batting cage, which is within the facilities usage of the baseball facilities. So that was approved. And if we can go to the next slide, please. This shows what the repaired batting cages look like. So the funds were put to really good use. And the $2,500 that they got was a small sliver in the total amount that all of the repairs actually took, and there's still repairs that need to be made. And so they're continuing to raise funds to make those repairs and update their baseball facilities moving forward. Next slide, please. And then we have the West End Neighborhood Prep Project. They are not complete. They're still in progress. However, they have completed various stages of the overall project that they said they were going to do, including a work day at DeMayo Park, music on the porch. Next slide, please. As well as their emergency prep door hangers that they said that they would create with the grant funding. And so here is a depiction of those door hangers. Next slide. So in Q3 of 2021, CAB received 11 applications totaling $27,323, all of which were approved. 4 have been completed thus far. I believe the Rosalind Mural project and the food distribution for times like these, those projects are being implemented as we speak and on their way to being completed. Next slide. So the first one that was completed was the Spirit of Healing Mural, the Pomo Mural project, also a mural project that took place at Elsie Allen High School, this one through Art Start. 50 students worked on the mural. 20 additional students participated in drop-in after-school sessions at the Art House. There was 1 lead artist, 5 assistant lead artists, 7 apprentices, and 30 community volunteers for this project. Next slide, please. And here is the completed mural. The mural concept was designed by Pomo project members Christine Cobal, Rose Hammock, and Joe Salinas, and honors the Pomo people of Sonoma Lake and Mendocino counties. Next slide, please. Second project completed was the Food for Thought COVID-19 nutrition program. So during the first month of the grant period, Food for Thought brought the equivalent of 1,947 meals and 17 cases of diapers to 87 Santa Rosa residents impacted by COVID-19, including 46 children. 84% of these clients identified as Latinx, and home deliveries of groceries and other household items came with an individual nutrition counseling with a registered dietitian and regular case management. Next slide, please. Then we had the Historic Railroad Square Holiday Carriage Rides, which took place to cover 2 full days of carriage rides. So there was the rental of the carriage itself, and then the rental of the porta potties and partial payment for musicians and entertainment. They enhanced visitor experience with the addition of music every day, recruiting volunteer staff to meet and greet and take family photos, and to partner with other Railroad Square and community organizations and businesses. And they averaged about 5 volunteers per day to make this happen. Next slide. Then we had the last project for that quarter, On the Move, Dia de los Muertos, which took place in Courthouse Square. It was a 2-day event on November 1st and 2nd, honoring and celebrating the Pomo land. The event offered intergenerational education opportunities via storytelling and public performances, highlighting cultural and spiritual healing practices. They had 15 people total participating in the event planning committee. Over 126 people volunteered and participated in implementing the event. They had over 200 performers and over 1,500 people participating in attending the actual 2-day event. Next slide. So there were 2 projects approved for funding in Q4, and those are both, or one's in progress as we speak, the other one was not funded. Next slide, please. And that gets us to where we're at currently with the first quarter projects. There were 4 approved. 1 project has since been complete while the others are in progress. So next slide, please. The one completed was the South Park Ice Cream Social and Public Safety Day. There was a total of 190 participants. City partners included our Office of Community Engagement, the Santa Rosa Police Department, Fire, and In Response. There were a total of 24 community volunteers that helped with this event, 16 South Park Coalition members, and Vice Mayor Alvarez also participated. It was an afternoon of neighborhood safety information and disaster preparedness planning for South Park residents. The opportunity was provided for South Park residents to engage with SRPD by asking questions of the chief and officers in attendance. NOAA radios and emergency go bags were provided to residents, and there was music, ice cream, and a Zumba demonstration provided. As also the Mary Lou Loretta patrol car was there, and it was a major hit among the kids and some of the adults in attendance as well. So it was a fun day. We had a lot of fun out there ourselves. Next slide, please. So budget information. The total starting budget for the grant program last year was $82,661. We have, just to let everyone know, in 2020, there were several grants that were approved pre-pandemic for NeighborFest. Those were put to a halt due to the pandemic. And then the group started implementing community improvement projects instead of NeighborFest. We actually have one group that is just finalizing their project. So we can add that to the overall total of $12,256. I mean, that was the West End Neighborhood Association that will be doing, or I believe they actually did an event this summer. 2021 totals almost $42,000. And then the current 2022 project totals $9,140. So that puts us at $19,614 remaining in the budget until June 30th of next year. And with that, I will pass it back over to Chair Graves for questions.
All right, getting myself situated here so I can see everybody. Thank you, Danielle, and bringing it to questions from our members. I'll take hands raised. I don't see any. Oh, Member Harrell.
Yeah, since this is my first year in, is the $19,000 will go until June, is what I think I heard. And will there be a continual application process to use these, you think, or do sometimes we have money left over and it's not used, or
yes.
Just curious?
So the budget rolls over from fiscal year to fiscal year. When the council begins their budget process, we let the council know, hey, we're running low on funds. We need to replenish. Typically, they give about $35,000 per year. However, if there is a large amount left over in the pot during their budget cycle, they will hold off adding funds until the CAB lowers that amount.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So I'll jump in here with a follow-up question to that. So what I'm understanding then is that we didn't receive any funds for this year.
Correct.
So these are still remaining funds from that 80,000 plus.
Correct.
Great. Okay.
Yep.
So it's something to keep in mind as we go forward. That 19,000 is what we have currently. We're not going to get $35,000. This is, as you said, that is the amount of money that we have until June 30th of next year. So considering that we were able to give away $40,000 last year, this could get a little tricky. And is there any discussion on that or questions about that? Just want to make sure that that's clear. Member Rom.
I guess the biggest thing is if the two pass today, that leaves us with 13,614 through what is that, 10 months? So moving forward, it's pretty much first come, first serve, correct? I mean, we don't have any projections on what other applications are out there other than these two that are on the table, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
All right.
And Member Inocencio?
Yeah, just kind of a comment of basically, I think even though it's not much money left, I think we should still be, approving all the projects. First come, first serve, and if we run into zero, but then we'll see how the council or the city would have to deal with that. But I think we should continue on as CAB to approve projects as they come in.
And Member Harrell?
Is it always 2,500 is the max? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And Member Barnett?
So just to give folks some historical, because it occurs to me that everybody came on during the pandemic. This was not a quarterly grant. CAB did these grants in a one-shot deal, and then they had a year to complete. The quarterly system came on in the pandemic because we had a glut of funds that were not getting access because the council kept rolling from one budget cycle into one budget cycle. So I don't look at the $19,000 as pump the brakes. I look at it as we as a board have a job to spend that money down to zero to give the council a reason to fund the CIG again. And if we run out, then worst case scenario, we suspend a grant cycle until the council budget realigns and we get does that make sense? Of this is not a pump the brakes. We have to start thinking about budgeting this. No, this is a run the clock out, get it down to zero. If we have to suspend a grant cycle till the next budget cycle, but our job as a board is to show the council what we're doing. And this is our largest lift. And so so I don't want us to slow down our efforts. I want to run that thing down to zero to show the council that there's a need for this and that they should pump it more, right? So we can continue to fund this quarter system. That's something I think that needs to come into context. This is part of it is because we had to adapt with the pandemic, and part of this is because this fund never ran down. We've never gotten it down to zero. It's always been carrying over a balance. And this whole purpose is to take action, right? So I'm like, don't look at this in a fiscal idea of like, we got to budget this out until June 30th. No, look at this as we have $19,000 to find projects for, to get the community engaged on this. And if we run it out to zero, we go to the council and say, we ran this out to zero. there's still need. Prioritize this into the next budgetary cycle. So think of it more in that sense, if that makes sense, because we don't want to carry a balance. We don't want to carry dollars over. We want people to be putting this into action.
So I'm gonna jump in here if there are no other questions from the board members. I completely agree with Member Barnett. I would also have a special note on our community improvement grant page on our website that highlights to the public that funds are now lower than before, because I think on the website, if I recall, it talks about this $35,000 per year. We don't have that amount. I would not want us to change what we're doing, but I would want to make sure that the public is aware that how much funds are available now, almost like a ticking clock or a countdown, so that if there is any urgency that needs to be had by organizations, community groups, a project to apply, being that they have a year to complete their project, right? And they get their funds right up front. They should apply now rather than later. That would be my only concern. That sometimes folks would say, well, I don't have a project until, let's say, March or April of next year, so I'm not going to apply until closer to that time, where in reality, they may want to apply sooner into this next quarter that have the applications open for as of tomorrow, that we have the applications open for the next round. So however the wordsmith needs to happen for that, I think that would be really prudent to make sure that that perception is correct within the public. Magali.
Thank you. I just wanted to offer, and maybe this becomes like an item for discussion for CAB next meeting, but we do have the one-time monies, which are PG&E funding for the DEIB Spaces mini grants. And we were hoping to bring that for CAB to consider for various, events and projects having to do with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Happy to put something together that's more concrete for the CAB if that is something the CAB would like to explore, so that we can continue approving needed projects.
I think that would be warranted, and because it would have maybe potentially different constraints or definitions around what folks are applying for and what their focus is. Although certainly there would be a lot of the CAB improvement grants that would qualify probably within this as well. But because the definitions would be slightly different, that we would need to have somewhat of a presentation about that and really solidify our role within that moving forward and how that's communicated out. So that would be appreciated. And Member Barnett, you are a ball of sun as always, which I love, but I just want to point it out to you that that's all we can see, which is awesome. I can't see if your hand goes up, just so you know. Are there any other questions? Oh, Member Wiseman, thank you.
Yeah, just assuming we will receive, but would just love to receive links to the application process after, just to share out with my networks, and I'm sure everyone else on the board as well.
Not laughing at that. I was laughing at getting a dog kiss. Managed to get up here through like 2 inches between me and the table. So I agree. That's always great to be able to put that out there, especially early on in the process. So even starting tomorrow to those that might be interested, and especially now with a little bit lower funds.
Just
So
want to point out that I am out of the office the rest of the week. So no changes, nothing can be done to the website, or nothing will be sent out until next week. So please be patient. Thank you.
thank
As
you.
I get Magali all situated so she can take over.
That sounds good. So it sounds like that can happen to the website. We're just going to happen maybe next week and not on Monday, I would assume. So there's no action to be taken on this. This was just a presentation. So at this time, going to public comment.
There are no hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. Without any further comments from the board, that will close out item number 6.2 and moving on to item number 6. Excuse me, that's closing out number 6.1, and we're moving on to item number 6.2, which is a report on the Community Improvement Grant Program and the Q2 applications for funding, in which we had 2 applications. So Danielle, will you take that away now?
So as Chair Graves mentioned, there are 2 applications that were submitted for funding for Q2. One is the Bags of Love application from Food for Thought, and then the other one is the Magnificence Magnifies application. And that is all. The total is $5,000 for total funding, $2,500 a piece. So I'll turn it back over to the CAB for discussion and questions.
And are there any questions from CAB members on these 2? Member Steffi?
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question about I'm gonna get this wrong, Magnificence Multiplies, that one. I just, in abundance of caution, I just wonder if the city is at all putting themselves into legal exposure because of there not being an actual licensed counselor. These are all volunteers and people getting together and talking, but it's kind of under the auspice of counseling. And I've had some experience in another realm of this, and we always had a MFCC counselor available 24/7 in case anything happens. So is there any possibility we could be putting the city at any kind of risk?
That's a great question. We did check with the city attorney's office, and our attorney informed us that because the grant, the applicant is only asking for funds to pay for the facility fee for Finley. That is all. It's not paying for, therapist time or any staff time at all, because that's not eligible. Then there is not a problem with that.
Okay, thanks for checking on that, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And Member Harrell?
I have a question about when we provide the grant to the same one that she was talking about, do we write a check directly to Finley or wherever the room is going to be reserved, or do we give them a check?
No. So what happens with that is once the grant application is approved, we enter into an agreement with the applicant, which needs to be signed by the applicant first, and then it's approved by the city manager. Once that is approved, then we cut a check directly to the applicant, and then they pay directly for the things that they say that they're going to pay for in their grant application. And then when they've completed the project, they submit receipts to us so that we can make sure that everything was legit. If there are questions about that, or if funds are not spent according to their grant application and their agreement, then we do ask for those funds back.
Have we ever had to do that before?
No, we have not.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any other hands raised. And I have to say that I also had just that tingly feeling of about liability, and I'm glad and appreciate that the question was asked. I also recall on previous applications that there was space, and I saw the question being asked, but then the answer was none on this one around any permits or approval for the actual program. Like if there's a mural, it has, and it's on a building, then that building needs to say, yes, this is going to happen. So I'm not seeing where the Finley Center has said that this can happen. I realize that the Finley Center is a rental space, but in previous applications, we've asked for that kind of, organization or a nod from the facility, whatever the facility may be, a street, a building side, or in this case, a rental facility, that this is would be approved. And I know that there's insurance costs and there's other things with Finley. So I'm just unclear if that answer of none means that they checked with Finley, because we've even had.
They did. So I actually received communication from their staff at Finley stating that the applicant was looking for a place to hold their group sessions, and that they were also looking for funds to help pay for those. So I don't think that we've ever actually had an application in the grant program that went specifically to room rentals. It's been like park permits and special event permits and things like that, like outdoors. So this would be the first one that we've gotten that. And my understanding from talking to the director of recreation is that the grant application needs to be approved, and there needs to be a deposit placed in order for them to actually hold that room space there at Finley. So they can't go say, hey, I want to reserve the room for this, but I still have to get, I need you to approve the rental. And then I need to give that to the cab. It doesn't work that way with room rentals at Finley. They actually have to see that the funding is in place, and they have to put a deposit in place before they can make that reservation at Finley. And I believe it's for all recreation spaces in the city, if I'm not mistaken.
So I understand that to mean that they can't show anything to say that potentially it's approved before the monies and deposits received.
I don't think that it's necessary for a room reservation at a city facility. It's more if we've had situations where applicants want to make major changes in a park space or major changes on public property, and they didn't go through and get approval from the city to do that. That is what those guidelines are referring to. When it comes to reserving a space or renting or holding like an event in a park, for example, they require deposits in order to hold that. So we'd essentially be asking all of our applicants to put money down and gamble on whether or not we're going to fund their application. It's a non-refundable deposit.
And then that wasn't my point. I actually would have rather have asked that the Recreation and Parks had something in writing to say that there is a potential to approve once a deposit comes in, so that we know in writing, as we've known from Public Works and from other agencies within the city, that that this was allowed. Not necessarily that it was guaranteed, but that it was allowed. So
I guess what I'm trying to say is
that
they're not going to do that. I've had a conversation with the director, and they're not going to do that.
And Member Ram?
So, I mean, we're approving rental of a facility, but if it doesn't work out at Finley for whatever reason, they still need to rent a place.
Correct.
So, I mean, whether they're looking for a grant to rent space, I don't see whether they have a guaranteed spot or not. They're still gonna need to rent a spot. That's all my only input.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, I wasn't asking for a guarantee. I'm just asking that this type of project would be accepted within the facility. And I say this with all respect to the person that's doing it, but the facility also does hold, groups and adult classes and youth classes and all of these things in this space. So this is an ongoing, not a one-time event. So I would love to see some clarity around that from our facility, since it's a city-to-city project. Member Inocencio.
I guess I have a question about kind of the same. Is there any coordination between when a cab project is renting city-owned space, offering it at a reduced price or even free? Is that something that's been discussed before? Because in a lot of cab grants, I think it can be a sizable chunk of whatever funds they're using. It seems like maybe there's some space there, and I think this is doesn't have to be answered here, but just something that maybe we could think about as cab.
So I take that there's no answer to that one. And I'm just so I'm clear that the potential to have a discount because it's the cab, as if cab was using the space. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Whereas if just is there a way there to offer a discount, or maybe, I mean, it's the city, right, providing it. So it seems like if it's a cab sponsored event or a cab grant funded event, there might be an opportunity there to provide that space for a lower cost or at no cost or something like that.
We would have to bring the director of recreation into that conversation.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile to have.
And Vice Chair Weeks.
Yeah, because I like the idea, but I just playing devil's advocate here, because then that might come at a potential loss for the Parks Department, because if another person's trying to utilize the space and you're subsidizing that, then they're further losing money, and we're actually giving them kind of more money in the grand scheme of things, which if we had a lot of money, I'm all for giving it away. I love that. But I know we're on a tight budget, as is every jurisdiction in Sonoma County, and I'm sure beyond our borders. So again, just want to bring that up.
Member Harrell.
I just noticed that the Bags of Love application was much more, seemed much more organized, and I just felt really comfortable with that. I was wondering if anybody else, I don't know the person who's doing this for the other one, the Magnificent Magnifies, and I'm sure it's important, but I just want to make sure that it's money well spent. And I just asking that question.
I'd love to speak to that. So I'd caution us all to remember that sometimes it's an individual and sometimes it's a well-established organization.
Right.
When you're talking, like, for instance, Bags of Love is from Food for Thought, which is a well-established organization and does have folks on hand to be able to write for grant requests. Whereas an individual may be just having their first experience in writing, and completing their application. And so the content of their application in that way, or the style of their application, is not something to regard in the process of whether or not it's approved, but just the facts as they may be. So, and again, I want to caution as well that what I'm asking for is not necessarily something from this applicant. It's something internally, because we have had statements from Public Works before for items. And from, I believe we've had it from Rec and Parks, and I do understand that Danielle is saying that those were items that changed an area drastically. But I would still want personally some notification in writing that this is possible, so that, and I get it, Member Rom, that yes, a rental is a rental, but a rental of a space at Finley Center may be quite different than a rental at a church, or and even though they say that a church isn't really quite appropriate for this group, but maybe some other spaces that CAB may not think of as something that we would want to sponsor or give a grant fund to. I don't know what those are right now, but
I think this is my lawyer brain coming out in me right now, but I really want to caution the CAB. You cannot, as a board, cannot dictate what our recreation centers are used for. So I want you guys to be super careful about that. We actually have groups such as, for example, AA, that's held here at City Hall on a regular basis. We have other groups that hold regular classes and workshops and whatnot at Finley, Steel Lane, etc. So just cautioning you guys.
Yeah.
Be careful.
And again, I want to make clear that I am not asking for this group to not do this activity. I just would want a nod from Rec and Parks that a private individual could do something like this. And being that it's not an organization, and that they don't have a license around that. And I understand, Danielle, that you are telling us what someone had said, but I'm looking for something in writing so that we have that, because we have had the writing in writing in the past. And Member Lange.
I hear all of that, and I do think it's just a process that doesn't exist, because that's not how government functions. And so I think we need to recognize that that's not how government works. I'm not sure what everyone's background is, but as a policy wonk, this government doesn't operate that way, and they're not going to give permissibles. And many people use facilities for all different ways. And I get the point, you'd like a confirmation, but to Member Rom's point, they're going to need a facility, whether it's at Finley or at the Arlene Francis Center, right? Someone's going to charge them for something. So I would like to, if it's the appropriate time, if discussion has wrapped, call the question to motion to approve both and fund both grants and as they've been submitted.
I second.
And I hear that was Member Lange with the motion and Member Harrell with the second. We'll go to public comment.
We do have a hand raised for public comment. Just give me a moment to get the timer up on the screen. All right, our first public comment is from Christine Quiche. I have enabled your microphone. You can go ahead and unmute your mic, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Do you see the timer on your screen? Wonderful. Okay, your timer begins now. Thank you.
Great. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for even giving me this opportunity here. Two things I would like to address that came up in your discussions is one, as of tomorrow, I could be certified by the state to do this. I am just finishing up my peer support specialist certification through the state of California, and I should know tomorrow whether or not I have successfully passed the training I've been involved in. As far as the hastiness of the application, I agree completely, because I have done many grant applications before, but I literally was doing this down to the wire to get it to Danielle to submit it. And our group used to be part of, before the pandemic, we were part of a support group that met through a nonprofit in our community. And with the challenges that happened with the pandemic, they were no longer able to handle the online meetings, and they completely pulled the rug out from under our group. And so I stepped up to keep the group together. And now that we're getting back to in-person meetings and I've got my certification and we're doing things, the group that I've been working with has tried to go back to the national organization, and there are flaws that I'm working with both the state and national charters of that nonprofit organization to get what is wrong in Sonoma County fixed. The national organization that is in our Sonoma County is not reflective of the other chapters throughout the county of this organization, and I'm working on the state and national level to fix that. And this is just a short-term fix, trying to get people who are suffering from mental health issues to have an opportunity to sit together and to talk and to have a certain level of support that allows us to exist and heal and recover in our community. And it is, in my lifetime, I have seen drug and alcohol addictions come out of the closet where you can go to your employer and say you need to go into an in-house treatment and get a certain amount of support with that. Now people are still hiding mental illnesses. They don't want to go to see a therapist because we live in a small town and somebody is going to see their car out in front of the therapist's office. And we can't meet in Starbucks and stuff because of the type of stuff we talk about. So we need a private place. And right now we are meeting at the sports basement in their community center, but we want to expand to have groups more than just once a week.
Thank you very much, Christine. There are no other hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. And now we had a comment from member Harrell.
I would like to thank Christine for explaining. This is makes it even more important for us to grant this, I think. And I really, I wanted to thank her for all of the compassion that she's showing and trying to help people in the community with these issues.
Thank you. And I too want to thank you, Christine, for being here tonight and also for bringing this up. I want to stress once again, I was not questioning you or your group. It was more of an internal process, which I hope can be rectified, because if we have that process in one spot, we need hopefully to have the process, or at least have a conversation about the process for all departments so that we get that information. And at this time, we will take it to a roll call vote.
Member Barnett?
Approve.
Member Harrell?
Approve.
Member Inocencio?
Approve.
Member Lange?
Approve.
Member Rom?
Approve.
Member Richardson?
Approve.
Member Rodriguez?
Approve.
Member Steffi?
Approve.
Member Wiseman?
Approve.
Vice Chair Weeks?
Approved.
And Chair Graves?
Approve.
That motion passes with 10 yeses and 0 nos. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I mention one quick thing, since Christine is still on the line? We will follow up with you next week regarding your application and agreement.
And I do want to thank everybody for having an open and honest discussion. I think that it's really important that we bring that to our grant process. Even though it can be challenging, it can be difficult. These are things that do tug at your heartstrings. I understand that it's very personal, and they're always good for the community, but it is important that we talk about our process and that we keep that transparent, and we grow from these discussions. So I thank you all for bearing through that. Moving on, that ends item number 6.2, and we're going to item number 6.3, which is our 2022 priorities, defining our goals and our next steps. This is a follow through or a following discussion that we've been having around determining our goals and next steps for our 2022 priorities, including how to implement the priorities in the next 6 months. And we do have a set of priorities that we had developed earlier this year. We do have that as an attachment on our agenda, and we can show that on screen now, I believe. And going on to these priorities, am I the facilitator here? I just want to clarify that.
Well, maybe we could co-facilitate this, Chair Graves, and but I definitely will leave it to you. This is your document, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can in any of this. But I think it's important to note that we have about 4 months left, since we won't have a December meeting, and the November meeting is going to be pushed up a week. So I do want to remind the group of that in terms of looking at these 3 priorities.
Correct. And also a good reminder is to know that, and I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, that our year as defined, being that it would end at the end of this calendar year, is somewhat self-imposed. We could extend that time. And also we had self-imposed making these 3 priorities in February, and we certainly can change that. I will just go at this time to read through them with everyone. And I want to remind you all that I can't see you on screen right now. I can just see, oh, there, I can see you a little bit. I can see some of you on screen, but not all of you. So if you do have your hand raised, let me know.
The screen sharing is not showing up.
It's not showing up for you?
It's just circling. Does anybody else see it?
Yeah, we do see it. Madeline, is there a way
it.
to magnify the document?
Member Harrell, it's also in the agenda materials as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. I may have to change the formatting.
Okay.
So give me 1 moment.
So as Madeline is doing that, Vice Chair Weeks, you have your hand up?
Yeah, perhaps I'm misremembering, but hadn't we previously discussed, given the short timeline, obviously with the rest of this year, only a handful of months away, hadn't we discussed actually moving forward with objective number 1 as kind of like our principal objective, and really just trying to get neighborhood groups off the ground again? Or am I completely crazy and making this up in my head? Someone please jump in and tell me if I'm wrong or not.
What I would call, Vice Chair Weeks, is that we came up with these 3 priorities and objectives. And I think that you jumped in and said, well, we should do number 1 for sure. I think I've even looked back over that video, and then we tabled that so that we could come back to it. We didn't come back to these priorities last meeting. We decided to table them until this meeting. And we have not had a discussion as a group around how to proceed from this point, having these 3 priorities. So we haven't whittled it down as a group yet. But I do believe that you were very boisterous and vocal about your affinity for that one. So I can understand that might be part of your recall.
So I don't know, Chair Graves, if it would be helpful to just, as Madeline is reformatting these, just kind of, when she gets it up, read these over again, and we do have the amount of votes that they were each given. I do want to create as concrete as possible of a sort of timeline or work plan as we are moving our staffing around and are still short 2 full-time positions on our team. So I just want to make sure that if, whatever the needs are, our staff is able to meet them, that we're able to help CAB be successful. So that's kind of where our end of really wanting to pin something down comes from here.
And I would like to say I understand, but I think I might be a little bit fuzzy on what you just asked for right there. I'm going to go ahead and read through these first, and then maybe we can get some more clarity around that.
Is this visible for everyone?
I see it. Thank you.
All right, so I'll read through these. I'm starting with number 1 is to reconvene neighborhood groups, facilitate neighborhood groups, how to start a neighborhood group. This received 7 votes. And an objective of this or subset of this would be using the data from Portrait of Sonoma County to recognize issues of inequity and serve community members where they are. Explore the diversity of the community within the areas of interest stated above. Item number 2, boost CAB's overall engagement with and empower the community in city decision-making by reconnecting with community at community events and gather data on how people want to connect with the city. Making a presence in all 7 districts. This received 7 votes. Use data from Portrait of Sonoma County to recognize issues of inequity and serve community members where they are. And if you recall, as I read this subset was used on all 3 of the priorities so that we would have a focus on recognizing issues of inequity and serving the community members where they are. So it does go on to repeat, as it did in number 1, to explore the diversity of community within the areas of interest stated above. And number 3, document tangible benefits of the CAB to share with the community. Develop hybrid tools and make available to educate the public on what city government does and how to access services, such as the Civic 101 videos as a tool. This had 8 votes. And once again, it has the subset of using the data from the Portrait of Sonoma County to recognize issues of inequity and serve community members where they are, explore the diversity of community within the areas of interest stated above. So I do want to just take a moment to revisit what Magali was saying. And Magali, what I heard you say is that given the new constraints of the staff and some staffing shortages, that you would like us to keep that in mind so that when we are looking at this, we're not overreaching the abilities of staff to support us. Is that correct?
Yes, and we want to be able to support CAB in meeting whatever, if there are 3 goals or just the 1 goal, so that we give ourselves sort of enough runway to make sure to do that.
Thank you. There's wanting to do that, and then there's the reality, right? So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind. I think that's a good point. Member Inocencio, you had your hand up.
Oh yeah, sorry, I clicked on accident a couple times there. I've lowered it.
No problem. Thank you. Member Steffi.
Yeah, I guess as we're talking about this, I just want to make sure, like I look at these three and I think a lot of us have already been doing number two as far as tabling at events and connecting with community members, which we haven't done in so long because of COVID. But I look at the first one, which I know is high on Vice Chair Weeks list, and it is on a lot of ours, but like practically speaking, what does that mean? We can't really do it ourselves, go out and facilitate neighborhood groups. We don't have the manpower, the woman power, right? The time. So I guess, I don't know, that one's always kind of confused me as far as practically speaking, what does that look like? So if anyone has an answer to that, I know it's, oh, it looks like Vice Chair Weeks has an answer to that. So I will stop talking.
And before I call on Vice Chair Weeks, I did see in the chat that member Harold, you had put something in our chat, and I would ask, and this is procedural, just so that we have transparency for our those that may be listening in or those that may be attending and those that may be watching after the fact, that we have your question come to the forefront in front of everybody, so that at this point I'll call on you and you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if COVID is still going to have a slowing down effect of getting neighborhood groups together. I know that here in Oakmont, people are still reticent to go in, to get together, even sometimes outside. I mean, they're more comfortable outside, but it's, we have a really low, much lower. We used to have full capacity in all of our events, and now it's very much lower, and it's all due to COVID. And it seems to be still hanging around. I'm wondering if that's going to affect our expectations of what we can do.
Member Harold, that is a great question. It is the question of our time, right? So I would say that while there's no definitive answer, of course, COVID is always looming large in the background, and for many of us, even in the foreground, those of us that may have health issues or other issues that prevent us from fully taking part and reducing our risks as much as possible. So that's something to keep in mind. But at the same time, if we can fold that in, we can't always predict what's going to happen. We're around the next corner. Mm-hmm. Vice Chair Weeks.
Yeah, so I don't pretend to have the answer in terms of, what the best path forward is. I was just thinking, in terms of how we would logically approach this, given the circumstances that we're, existing in. I think there are a lot of neighborhood groups out there that just need a little bit of a primer. And if we were to find like someone who's like the main organizer, maybe we could start doing outdoor events. Maybe we could start doing, little neighborhood get-togethers. I know, for example, that I have a friend and I go to his neighborhood block group. Like they have little parties every now and then, and I'm kind of an adopted part of their neighborhood because I'm there all the time. And so I go to those all the time, and I know the entire block now. I know every single person by name. I do think it's possible we could do this. It might take shape in a different form. And it might be a little bit challenging in terms of creating those connections. But if we really want to, I think, propel us forward and try to figure this out, and I really think start making those important connections. I think it's important we start kind of engaging with folks in person, maybe outside, not inside, but maybe outside. So that we can have these interactions. And I look at some of these other things on here, and I just don't see how we can really make it happen, especially with the temporary staff shortage that we're going to be having and some of the issues. It just makes sense to me that if we really want to, create kind of a broader fabric of community, well, that starts with our neighborhood groups like the West End group, which is probably one of the most powerful groups here in terms of like their ability to shape and really, I think, move policy forward in many respects. They're a very vocal group, and it's most welcomed to have their unified voice. So that's kind of just my general thoughts on how I wanted to approach this. That's just me. I certainly welcome, other folks' input as well.
And at this point, I still, I can't see the whole screen. I do see a few of our members, and if you raise your hand electronically, I will see you come up to the front square. Are there any other conversation? This is the time to talk about which one of these you would put your energy and efforts in. And I think that's what I would ask of CAB at this time, is that looking at these 1 through 3, that it's perfectly reasonable to think about not only what would be best, I think all of these would be great for our community, but what would you feel that you could commit yourself to and put your time and energy into these priorities? Maybe it's all 3, and maybe it's just prioritizing which ones that we start off with, or maybe it's only 1 and you really see that time is an issue, not just the overall time that we have until the end of December, but your time. That is understandable. And any and all conversation around that would be welcome at this time. Member Lange.
I can personally commit to number 3 because I think that could be done on a Google Doc. And I'm also happy to share my Canvas skills and put something together as a start of a pretty little decorative something if folks want to help with the contribution of context. But I think really one of the things that I've experienced and we know is true is that we do struggle with having quorum at meetings. So getting more interested folks to continue to fill seats and like why it's important to show up. And 2, to be able to let folks know that we are a body that I think can help continue to achieve number 2 on our list, which is how to engage with Santa Rosa city government. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to dedicate my skills to that piece.
Thank you, Member Lange. I appreciate that you put that in really concrete terms. I also appreciate that you have Canvas skills. And Magali?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that for number 3, we are in the process of hiring a new production company. So these videos will be made. We just would love the participation of any CAB members who are interested in being actors in the videos. Also, if we could get your help with, when the videos are ready, pushing them out. I mean, we anticipate this process to move fairly quickly. So Danielle is going to help us in her last bit here of contributions and finishing up those contracts so we can get that rolling. And I know she has more information.
And I know all of you want to be stars. So please, I would love some volunteers to help. The scripts are already ready. All you got to do, and there's teleprompters, all you got to do is read off the teleprompter and, smile at the camera and talk about the city. Talk about why it's important to participate.
So I think maybe a potential approach with that is consider us all volunteers until we say no. So that way we're not chasing after, did you say yes kind of a thing. But we're all here, we all are participating. And if we get a schedule of when production is sent to all of us, then it's just a matter of if we're available during that time. For me, it's always a matter of whether I have a good hair day, which is a joke, by the way. But so yeah, I think I would love to see all of us participate in some way, although I understand if that's something that someone would not want to do and they can just already say, no, that's not in the cards for me. And I'm glad to hear that is ready to come out of the queue and actually happen. That's very, very, very exciting. This is something that it was 2 years in the making, if not a little bit more. So is there anybody else that can speak to what a number of one of these priorities that they would be willing to put your energy and resources in, that you see yourself committing to more so than others? Member Harrell?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Measure O is coming up, and it's incredibly critical for us to pass that. I would like to spend some energy in connecting with neighbors about that in multiple ways, because we have to receive a pretty high vote level to pass it. It's talking about, maybe it seems political, but it's really about the fire, like we talked about earlier. It's about the fire department, the police department, and a violence, trying to reduce violence. So it's a great way that neighbors will be interested in that.
You can absolutely educate the community about Measure O.
Yeah.
But as CAB members, you cannot tell people how to vote for Measure O.
Sure.
So just
Yeah.
educate.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And Member Barnett?
I recommend doing this like a roll call vote so we can just pound through this document. And I'll put myself on 3 as well, since it sounds like the video production is a rollout. So and we have a tangible thing that we can show for in this.
And I also, I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to jump in here again. I really, really appreciated the presentation tonight of our CAB grant progress. And I say this often, is the CAB has done tremendous work, obviously with staff as a driving force as well, to provide funds to a diverse range of CAB grant applications and from groups. And seeing that come to fruition is just, that brings that number 3 home even more, to publicize that. That was a great presentation. I'm looking forward to even just taking like just clip your presentation, even your vocals over that, and have that as something that is recorded and a video clip on the website would be wonderful. It was really tremendous. Thank you for doing all of that and putting together the pictures and whatnot. I too agree, number 3 does seem functional and do something that we could accomplish. And I think that that's really important for this group, that we feel like we're doing something and that we have something that we can accomplish. Member Steffi.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. To me, 3 is very feasible, and it's doable for all the reasons that have already been stated. So I think that's, personally, I would suggest that's what we focus on. And for the number 1, again, I've been asked personally by a neighborhood group to put on an event for them. So I feel like that can be a real slippery slope. But I also know I have a couple of websites of cities that have done great work with neighborhood groups. And if we have some current groups, why not just send the information out to them, at least as a way of addressing number 1, maybe more passively, certainly during COVID. But I would like, as Member Barnett just said, maybe do a roll call vote, but I'm all about number 3 and doing all I can to make it happen.
And Vice Chair Weeks.
So that all sounds great to me. Does this require a motion? Because if it does, it doesn't? Oh, all right. So it's just a roll call vote? Perfect. Thank you.
You don't even need a roll call vote if you can reach a consensus. If anyone has any major objections to it, speak now.
Well, follow on to what I was saying then. I agree with exactly what Member Steffi said. I think that's a great plan. If we can help, at least, my interest is only in trying to prime the neighborhood groups. If we think by disseminating information, which I think is a good idea, is the best way to get, at this, at least get it started, then I say, let's go for it. Let's do it. I just want to get those neighborhood groups activated. And if this is the best vehicle to do so, I'm all in favor.
So at this time, I don't see any other questions or hands raised. What I'm hearing is that we can do this roll call vote. Can we now do a vote for each one and see how many votes are tallied for 1, 2, and 3? Is that what we're thinking?
I think, didn't we do that last time with, since there's the number of votes to each item, or are we doing a refresh of now given where we are in time?
What I understood was that those number of votes got 1, 2, and 3 on the board or on this piece of paper. And so I guess what I'm asking is, do we, and this is a question, not a statement, do we do a vote for each one, and then that helps us to see the priority within this group? And member Steffi, you have a comment or question?
I do. Sorry to take so much airtime up, but I guess one suggestion maybe to streamline that is that we've heard 3 or 4 people say that maybe we focus on number 3 because it's tangible and feasible, and there's already a plan in place to get the videos created. So maybe we just vote or decide if we have majority, but we're going to focus on that. And then we're going to make some progress with number 1 by those of us who have connections with current neighborhood groups, send out the information as far as websites to model. So can we just put that out there as a suggestion and then have people say yes or no to that versus going through and voting on each one? Just a suggestion.
Definitely we can. I don't want to skip over anybody who might be feeling differently. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to just miss any little morsels of what people are feeling out there. So if there's no objection to that, which I'm not seeing any objection, but again, I can't see everybody on the screen. So please speak up if there is. At this time, can we do a roll call vote on number 3?
Okay. Member Barnett.
Yes.
Member Harrell.
Yes.
Member Inocencio.
Yes.
Member Lynch.
Yes.
Member Rum.
Yes, with a question.
Yes,
Are
with
we
the question.
just saying, we're saying 3 is a priority, and then we're gonna say 2 and 1 are not a priority, or we're gonna prioritize those next?
Yes, to what you just said. Yeah.
So and with clarity with that what that means is that number 3 is what we're actively working on from here to the end of December as an action item.
Okay, Member Richardson.
Yes.
Member Rodriguez.
Yes.
Member Steffi.
Yes.
Member Wiseman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Weeks.
Yes.
Chair Graves.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we went out of order. I should have done public comment, and I apologize for that. Is there any public comment on this item?
There are no hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. And so what I will say is that being that is number 3, and it is very tangible, that will also help to direct what our agendas are from this point forward so that we can stay on task and use our time wisely, as we do only meet right now as a complete group once a month. So we'll keep that in mind as we're developing agendas as well. So as I work with Magali going forward and Chair and Vice Chair Weeks, that we use our time for that. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. We're just about 8 o'clock. We've just finished 6.3 going to 6.4. Revisiting in-person meetings discussion. And Magali, you had that one.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, it just, I think from some of the previous meetings and listening to the previous conversations, I think, and I also fully understand that we do not have the most comfortable grasp of COVID yet, but I'd like to, in order to continue engaging CAB members and, being as physically present as possible, to bring up the possibility of meeting in person again. As a board, we can do this outdoors. We can, whatever, if the group decides, we can definitely find a location and follow processes and protocols that will make people feel comfortable. But I do want to make sure that we are, as staff, doing everything on our end to provide an opportunity to engage in person, because I know many of you have not had a chance to actually meet in person, and there is just a special magic that happens when people are in the same physical space together, in connections that are able to be made, and sort of other ideas that come from that. So I did want to, yes, Danielle.
Sorry,
down.
we can't meet outdoors because of the public broadcasting piece of the meetings. It has to be at the UFO. I'm sorry. I think meeting outdoors is a great idea, but we do have to broadcast the meetings.
Well, we do have indoor-outdoor spaces, so we'll find something if that is what the CAB would like to do.
So I have a question around this really quickly, Member Harold, before we move on, because I want to go back to the last meeting in where the CAB members did talk and made a decision that the next meeting was going to be a practice hybrid meeting with Vice Chair and myself meeting in person with the staff and everyone else having the opportunity to meet in a hybrid version online. And then in September to officially go into hybrid. So am I hearing that is now not an option? I just want some clarity around that before I swing it over to the rest of the board to ask questions.
That is definitely an option, but I figure since we are bringing the staffing to do an in-person meeting, I'd like for the CAB to revisit just, whomever else feels comfortable to share in that space, since we're already investing the staff time for that.
So as I understand it, that, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take this space at the beginning here, which I usually reserve for the end of discussion, but we had that discussion previously, and folks, we're still in the same boat with hybrid, with COVID, and that the September meeting would be a time when those people that were comfortable to come together in person in the hybrid space were more than welcome to, but in those people that maybe had a risk factor or an availability issue could remain in a virtual space. So I'm not hearing that it's veering that differently from what we talked about at the last meeting, if that is still true, that it has the hybrid option is available. Member Vice Chair Weeks.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying. I think it's just offering the opportunity for us to proceed forward in a hybrid option, which I totally hear what they're saying in terms of they're already investing the staff time. So if other folks want to come, feel free to come. If you want to stay hybrid, stay hybrid. But we might as well just, proceed forward through the end of the year in the hybrid option. And as I think we discussed last time, reassessing at the beginning of 2023, which to me, given, the just roller coaster that this pandemic continues to be, that seems the most appropriate action. So yeah, it sounds like the same things in place. We're just, I think, having the discussion now of, or not even discussion really, just, I think it's more of a, hey, if you want to come, please join us next month.
Yeah, without the trial in August, just come to the meeting in August.
Is the address written down? Where I haven't been to one in person yet.
We will provide you with the location information.
I haven't either, remember, Harold, so we will, if you join, we will both be doing this for the first time.
Okay. And it will be at 6 o'clock. Do I bring my lunch?
You know, I don't know, Danielle, and you can let me know if this is wrong, but we will definitely have some refreshment.
Yes, we will. They will. I won't, because I won't be there.
We used to have like little mini brownies and stuff. It was hilarious. And like little chips and crackers. It was always fun.
We can do that. We want to be fun.
So I also want to make sure that we talk about COVID safety for those that are coming, that masks at this point, I believe with the city are optional as they are in any indoor space. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out that when you eat indoors, you increase your risk factor. So keep that in mind. And when you're not wearing a mask indoors, you increase the risk factor as well, even if you are 6 feet apart. So that's something to just point out. So it sounds like to me that the change is just that August will not be a trial run for technology's sake, because that was what we were originally thinking, that it will be a hybrid meeting. Okay. So we'll get that information before our next meeting as to what that all entails, and we'll still have a Zoom link, and we'll have an address and the location of that with directions, I would assume. So I think that that doesn't require any action on our part. Item 6.4. All right. I know I'm going a little bit quickly here, just to get us through public comment on 6.4.
No hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. And then item number 6.5, issues of concern to city residents. Are there any issues that anybody wants to bring up real quick? Thanks for everybody staying with us. Public comment on item, on the last item.
It looks like Member Lange actually has her hand up.
Member Lange, sorry about that.
It's okay. I was a little slow to move to the button, but just wanted to share an update from my bringing up the weeds and overgrown center aisles. Within 2 days, they came and cleaned the whole area here between Marlowe and off of Marlowe, between Pioneer all the way to College. So visibility has significantly improved and there have been no accidents. Happy to report.
That is a great report. Thank you for sharing that. And that finishes out item number 6.5. Moving on to item number 7, future agenda items. Really quickly, implementing the strategic plan is ongoing. Out There Santa Rosa initiative is September 2022. So again, we'll be talking about agenda items and how to really hone in on our objectives and our priorities so that we use our time wisely. My Santa Rosa app presentation, Santa Rosa general plan update, the city manager meet and greet, and city's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Is there any comment on these future agenda items? Seeing none, is there any public comment?
There are no hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. At this time, I believe that we are up for adjournment. I appreciate those of you that said that you wanted to leave right after 8 o'clock. Thank you for staying a couple extra minutes. And thank you everyone for the lively discussion and for being here this evening. Your time is precious. We are going to make the most of it going forward. Appreciate you, Danielle, for always being here, and moving forward, Magali, looking forward to working with you more closely. Thank you, everybody, and stay safe. This meeting
I do
is.
have a question.
Need
I'm
a
so
motion to
sorry.
adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Host, you had a
Yeah.
question?
Yes, I don't know if
Oh,
it's
no.
too out of, if we've missed the opportunity, but we do have one hand raised for public comment. Danielle, is this?
That's fine.
Okay. Give me one moment.
And we do need to make a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Wait,
Hold
one
on just
moment,
a
please.
second.
No, we have to wait for the
We have to
comment.
wait for the
Okay.
public comment.
Oh, sorry.
I'm assuming that this public comment is on item number 7, but I'm not quite sure.
Christine, I've given you permission to talk. Do you see the timer on your, oh, have I shared the screen?
No.
I
No.
don't see the screen, but I just have a real short thing. It won't be 3
Okay.
minutes. I just wanted to just make a minor clarification that it's actually the magnificent magnifiers. And there's just a little typo in there. And I just wanted to do that and say thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a motion from member Harrell to adjourn, and a second would be from Vice Chair Weeks. And without any objection, we are adjourned. Please stay safe, everybody. Good night.